But under our Attorney General and our President, and the Attorney General is supposed to be the chief law enforcer of the land, the protector of the Constitution, Obama takes an oath to uphold the Constitution. He believes that he embodies due process, the president in and of himself, that he is due process. Whatever he says goes. So if you are on the presidential assassination target list, your due process has been carried out without your knowledge. The president, he judged you, he tried you, and now he's going to execute you. And it was constitutional, because he is the Constitution. What he says goes, and his Attorney General backs him up. Let me go back to Black's Law Dictionary for a minute and read you due process. The Due Process Clause, the constitutional provision that prohibits the government from unfairly or arbitrarily depriving a person of life, liberty, or property. There are two due process clauses in the U.S. Constitution. One in the Fifth Amendment applying to the federal government, and one in the 14th Amendment applying to the states. And I wonder if Anwar al-Awlaki received due process according to the U.S. Constitution and Black's Law Dictionary. The constitutional provision that prohibits the government from unfairly or arbitrarily depriving a person of life, liberty, or property. Now, with your life, your liberty, and your property hanging in the hands of one man, the President of the United States, does that become arbitrary or unfair? It's common sense. Now, finally, we get to the executive order issued by our president on March 16, 2012. And you can go to whitehouse.gov and see this document. National Defense Resources Preparedness. Obama trots out a piece of legislation from 1950 during the Cold War called the Defense Production Act of 1950. And I'm going to skim over this and read you some of these highlighted sections so you can get a feel for what is going on here. Policy. The United States must have an industrial and technological base capable of meeting national defense requirements. Moving on. The domestic industrial and technological base is the foundation for national defense preparedness. The authorities provided in the Act shall be used to strengthen this base and to ensure it is capable of responding to the national defense needs of the United States. Section 103A. Identify requirements for the full spectrum of emergencies, including essential military and civilian demand. Full spectrum domination. That the last 10 years have been that slow road, that slow march into tyranny and martial law. It's right here. They're using the words full spectrum domination of you and me. 103C. To be prepared in the event of a potential threat to the security of the United States, to take actions necessary to ensure the availability of adequate resources and production capability, including services and critical technology for national defense requirements. D. Improve the efficiency and responsiveness of the domestic industrial base to support national defense requirements. And E. Foster cooperation between the defense and commercial sectors for research and development and for acquisition of materials, services, components, and equipment to enhance industrial base efficiency and responsiveness. So you see here again, we saw it 10 years ago, we're seeing it now, the continued erosion of the barriers between public sector and private sector. And by executive order, they're going around the Constitution, around the rule of law, and they are merging the two. And they can use an event, a national security crisis, whether real or imagined, as this document states. A potential threat to the security of the United States. It's right here in black and white. Priorities and Allocations, Part 2, to require acceptance and priority performance of contracts or orders to promote the national defense over performance of any other contracts or orders, and to allocate materials, services, and facilities as deemed necessary or appropriate to promote the national defense. And then it goes on to outline cabinet heads who will be responsible for taking over every facet of the American economy and the American way of life. So what that says right there is that any contract that any company has to fill, let's say it's a food storage company, who you hear on TV, eFoods Direct, whoever, if they've got a contract to make a large order for a private company, Bass Pro Shops, whoever, the federal government can come in and say, national security, we take priority. You're filling our orders first. They can take over and nationalize every facet of American industry and resources. The Secretary of Energy will be in charge of all forms of energy. Secretary of Health and Human Services with respect to health resources. Secretary of Transportation with respect to all forms of civil transportation. Your bicycle, to your car, to your train, to your bus, to your airplanes. Everything under the control of the cabinet, reporting directly to the president or dictator-in-chief. This little one is interesting to me. The Secretary of Defense with respect to water resources. So the Secretary of Defense is being assigned to be in control of water resources during a national emergency. Why wouldn't that go to, like, the Secretary of the Interior? Why? Why does everything else go to a civil head, but water, which is a resource that you and I need to survive and live, falls under the direct control of the person who's in charge of the military? That is very curious and alarming and concerning. Going on to the back of this document. Civil transportation includes the movement of persons and property by all modes of transportation in interstate, intrastate, or foreign commerce within the United States. Energy means all forms of energy. I'm reading from the definitions now. Farm equipment means equipment, machinery, and repair parts manufactured for use on farms or in connection with the production or preparation for market use of food resources. Food resources includes all commodities for human or animal consumption, as well as potable water, packaged in commercially marketable containers. So bottled water in America, it's a food resource, and it will fall under the purview of the federal government and the President of the United States in a declared martial law situation. Water resources means all usable water from all resources within the jurisdiction of the United States that can be managed, controlled, and allocated to meet emergency requirements, except water resources does not include usable water that qualifies as food resources. So your wells, your domestic water supply, your municipal water supply, it's all under their control. Nationalized at the flip of a switch. 201E, I want to go back to this. The Secretary of each resource department, when necessary, shall make the finding required under Section 101B of the Act, 50 U.S.C., to control the general distribution of any material, including applicable services, in the civilian market. That is the nationalization of everything, your way of life as you know it. They can do it under executive order. This isn't legislation that went through Congress. This wasn't enacted or passed under a Republican form of government. This was signed and deemed law by a president who is acting outside of the boundaries of the Constitution. So I know I've gone on for 25 minutes now, but this stuff is important. We've been on a slow road to tyranny over the last 10 years. And this executive order, in my estimation, is the culmination of their control grid to roll out martial law at a moment's notice. We're already in martial law. It's just a matter of them declaring it. You see, we live in undeclared martial law right now. Have you been to an airport lately? Get this information out to your friends. Think about it. Do your research. Be prepared. Study your Constitution. Know what's going on in Washington, D.C. Spread the words to your friends. Wake up your neighbors and relatives. Time is of the essence if we are to save the Republic. I am out.